The Arizona Coyotes officially had their home opener at the Mullett Arena, and Robyn, Leano, the host of Locked On Coyotes, was there. We'll have all of that and what it was like in the arena, plus all things Coyotes coming up on this episode of the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen today. We are free and available on all platforms. The Arizona Coyotes opened up the most unique arena in the NHL. They had their home opener over the weekend, and the co-host of Locked On Coyotes, Robyn Leano, was there. Robyn, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have you. What was it like being inside a college arena hosting an NHL game for the first time?
You know, it was really unique. I really didn't know what to expect going in there. I knew a lot of people were going to be talking down about this situation because it's a college arena. It is small. It is nice and cozy and it's intimate. But I think that's what makes it unique, and that's the novelty of it. You know, going in there, all the fans were packed, all 4,600 fans, and then some, because there were media personnel, there were a lot of scouts. So many different people were there, and just the liveliness was there. It was loud, and I think the reason why it was loud because the sound had nowhere to go because it's so much smaller. So you have all that noise everywhere. People were gonna saying like, "Oh, you know, not very many fans, not gonna a lot of noise," but no, it was loud.
And how do you think the players responded to this atmosphere? And obviously, you know, it takes all teams a little bit of time to get used to any new arena. I saw that with the Islanders last year at UBS. But how do you think the players responded to this unique situation?
You know, I think a lot of players so far have, you know, embraced it in a lot of ways. You know, they're like, yeah, um, this is definitely not even the worst situation we've been in. Like, this is like, this is actually it's loud. It's nice to be here. Um, there are some things that probably aren't ideal, but like, well, we take this as the situation is. And in addition to that, there have been some quotes even from the opposing team of actually praising the situation. Pierre-Luc Dubois of the Winnipeg Jets actually said in a post-game interview that the Mullett Arena ice is actually some of the best ice in the NHL that he's skated on.
Pretty impressive considering you're in the middle of the desert. So yeah, I mean that's pretty good. And believe me, as someone who has covered New York area hockey, that is not something we hear very often, even in New York where it gets pretty cold over the winter. And the Coyotes, you know, they picked up a point in the game. They played pretty well, went to overtime. Your early assessment on how the season is starting for the Coyotes so far?
Yeah, the Coyotes have had a lot of ups and downs this season. A lot of things that we expected. We knew they were going to really struggle this year. We knew the team was rebuilding. I looked at the way that they start games, and they just kind of made me depressed for a while. But their game against Columbus last week, and then their game against Winnipeg, even though they lost, uh, I think they looked better. They didn't play a full 60-minute game we're trying to hope for, but they started good, which is fine. But then they started taking penalties. I think that's the biggest issue. This is a team that's taken way too many penalties, and it's going to bite them in the end. They have one of the worst penalty kills in the league, despite also their power play being one of the better ones in the league.
Talk to me a little bit about Shayne Gostisbehere. I mean, he is off to a heck of a start, and he has almost double the number of shots on goal of the next highest player on the Coyotes roster right now.
Yeah, Shayne Gostisbehere has really looked amazing. At the game that I was at just on Friday, we were seeing him jump up because a forward was out of position. Like he would jump up and literally right and be where someone should be. And just his presence, even if he's not taking a shot, just his presence is really felt on the ice. And we're really just like, oh my God, like this guy looks like he wants to, really show his value, and maybe just ended up getting traded away again and for really good value because maybe finds a team that's like, hey, we could use a kid like Shayne Gostisbehere.
How concerned are you about the goaltending on this team? And is the overall goals against more a goaltending problem or a team defensive problem?
I think goaltending is doing the best they can. I mean, I'm not saying that like Karel Melka and Connor Ingram are like world movers of good goaltenders. They're not. They still have a long ways to go, but I think the majority of the issue is on the Arizona Coyotes defense. There isn't, like, outside of Shayne Gostisbehere, there really isn't much there. Jacob Chychrun has been on the injured reserve since the beginning of the season, and you don't have as much presence there in general outside of that. Dyson Mayo hasn't looked great. JJ Mosier, he's still a really young guy, and he's looked okay, but you could still see his flaws as a young kid. So like this team, the defense is just not there.
The arena experience, you were at the home opener. What are some of the things that make a game at the Mullett Arena a special experience for fans?
I think it is just the embracing of Arizona State. I think the fact that they have a student section there, like in the right behind the one of the nets, and it's really cool to see because you have fans coming from all around the country. You see a lot of different backgrounds. Someone pointed out the different jerseys that you saw there. Yeah, they're not all wearing Coyotes jerseys, but you saw a Sharks jersey, you saw a Chiefs jersey, you saw like Rangers jerseys. You see things from all around the country, and it's really cool to see a bunch of college kids coming to watch hockey at a cheap price and just contributing to the noise, because we know college kids kind of are the most rowdy kids out there, and it kind of moved around in the the rest of the crew.
How about traditions? Are there any specific traditions that they're starting? I mean, I know it's only been one game, but what are they looking to do that's going to be unique besides the student section to this arena?
It's hard to see say exactly like any traditions exactly. I know they've embracing in general just the even though different spelling, but the mullet. On their home opener they gave away mullet wigs. Which was absolutely hilarious. But one thing it didn't work out this last game, but like I know it's a very popular chant in college, and I know it was done when they were at Gila River, but it wasn't as loud. But I'm sure once the games get going, the home games get going, it's gonna get louder. You're gonna notice it. Is the classic, that he shoots, he scores, hey goalie, you suck chant, and it's everyone, college students and professional and hockey fans here in Arizona just love that chant, and they just do it at whatever the opportunity they get.
It should be interesting and some great hockey ahead at the Mullett Arena. Robyn, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. We're also on the Odyssey app and on YouTube. On social media at LO_Coyotes on Twitter, and myself is at Robyn_Leano.
All right, Robyn, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, hockey, and golf. hey, maybe you've got a feeling about a hot goaltender, or you want to put a little extra something on your favorite team's game to make it more exciting and interesting for you. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts.